A Valediction Forbidding Mourning by John Donne. As virtuous men pass mildly away, and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say no. So let us melt and make no noise, no tear floods nor sigh tempests move. 'Twere a profanation of our joys, to tell the laity of our love. Moving of the earth brings harms and fears, men reckon what it did and meant, but trepidation of the spheres, though greater far, is innocent. Dull sublunary lovers, love, whose soul is sense, and cannot admit absence, because it doth remove those things which elemented it. But we by a love so much refined, that ourselves know not what it is, interassured of the mind, care less, eyes, lips, and hands to miss. Our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat. And if they be two, they are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth, if the other do. And though it in the centre sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans, and hearkens after it, and grows erect, as that comes home. Such will thou, love, be to me, who must like the other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness draws my circle just, and makes me end where I begun. I'll just move the screen back up. Look, this poem expresses Donne's love for his wife Anne, and Donne was in a position of comfort. So in this instance, it is Anne who is apprehensive about his departure. And Donne was setting sail for France, and Anne was pregnant with their child. So she was obviously worried that he might find a French lady or two to occupy himself while he was away, but she could also be concerned that he may die at sea and never return. So, she was quite apprehensive about him leaving. This poem then reassures Anne that all will be okay. It is a love poem that expresses Donne's devotion to his wife. His main argument centres on him explaining the type of love they share, and he elevates their love beyond the physical, and he celebrates their spiritual connection. And he says here, just here in the middle, that he says, dull sublunary lovers. So physical lovers' love cannot admit absence, because it does remove the things which elemented it. They're saying that if your love is based on physicality, then a separation is unbearable, because the love is just built on that physical connection. But he states in the next stanza, but we by a love so much refined, that ourselves know not what it is. So saying that our love is so perfect, and it's so intimate, that we can't even articulate it with words. We're not sure of how to express it. It just is. And he says we're interassured of the mind. We care less, eyes, lips, and hands to miss. So he's suggesting there that physicality is secondary to the soul, that their spiritual connection is far more sophisticated than and far more important to them than the physicality. Of course, the physicality is important, but he's just saying that their love is elevated beyond that. He then employs a simile of a gold ring, and he states that we don't endure separation, a break, by being apart. Instead, it's an expansion. And he suggests that their love is like a pure gold shaped into a delicate piece of jewellery, something like a finely crafted wedding ring. So he says here, our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not a breach, but an expansion. So if we're thinking about their relationship being interconnected, and it's like a ring, like a wedding ring, when Donne departs, when he leaves her on his trip, they don't experience a break in the ring, but actually the ring expands. So it's like the gold ring is rolled into very, very fine strands of gold, And and this is meant to say that their union is always there. It's just stretched and expanded, I suppose, rather than seeing it as a break. So in Elizabethan England, circles were symbolic of perfection and all things divine and eternal. And this is what Donne is suggesting of their love. Their love grows stronger in their absence because of their spiritual connection, and their marriage is a commitment to God, and so their faith in each other strengthens their union. If we move to the third last stanza, just move like so. He states that their two souls are like a compass, and each soul is 1 foot of the compass. And here, this is a conceit. He's comparing their love to the compass that you draw circles with. And so it says, if they be two, if our souls be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. So it's saying that their souls and their relationship is joined at the top, and then their souls are the two arms of the compass. And it says, "Thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move." So he's saying that Anne is the pointy part of the compass that you stick into the page, and he's like where the pencil is, and he's the one that moves around. So this is an interesting comparison, and it connects the poem contextually to the age of discovery and cartographers mapping unfamiliar territory, because sextants and all those sort of instruments were used at that time. And so when you draw a circle with a compass, you anchor the pointy end on the page, and the pencil on the other arm draws the circle. And Donne tells Anne that she's the anchor in the relationship, she's the stable one, and he orbits her. So there's a nice link here to the sun rising, where we can compare Anne to the sun, and Donne orbits her, and she's at the centre of his universe. Okay, and so it's a bit of an inversion of what he's saying in the sun rising, but we can see that connection. And he only moves because of her power or influence. So he is devoted to her, is the idea that's presented there. And then he says in the second last stanza, "And though it in the centre sit," that being Anne being the pivotal point, "yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it." And saying there that if you can imagine drawing a large circle with a compass fully extended, the arms are parallel, and it's quite difficult to do because you're stretching your limits there. But once you've completed that, you always close the arms together when finished. And so he writes here, "and it grows erect as that comes home." So here lies Donne's erection joke, to show that he will enjoy the physical connection when he does return home. So when he's off travelling, he's stretching the compass to draw that broad circle, but he knows that he will always return. The compass will be joined together, and they'll have that physical union again. And Donne understands that life is a fusion of physicality and spirituality. And from this, I suppose, you can lead that idea to the idea of the fusion of wit and emotion, that life is to be enjoyed in both those manners. So the conceit here is the wit. It is just as evident as it is in the Petrarchan sonnets, but he's celebrating life as well. And the final stanza confirms with, "Thy firmness," as in your stability, "draws my circle and makes me end where I begun." So if we look down here, "Such wilt thou be to me, who must like the other foot obliquely run." So he's saying, I'll be the other foot and I will run around you. But it's your firmness that draws my circle just. So it's your constancy and your devotion and whatever in our relationship that means that I am able to draw these perfect circles, that I am the complete person that I am. So she's the reason why he's so complete. Her influence makes his perfection, and though he ventures away from her, he always returns, thus making the perfect circle. Now, we can compare this to Vivian's experience in the play, and I'm sure there are many connections that we can make. One is that Vivian wanders from her relationship with God, and Vivian can represent the American society here. We can say that she's busy preoccupying herself with work, and like in the relic, she worships the wrong thing. That misdevotion. So when her voyage is over, so when her scholarly endeavours are taken from her, and she's left basically with a decaying body and her soul, she must assess the value of her life. The play presents God as the fixed foot of the compass, and eventually Vivian returns to God and achieves salvation. And Edson uses the scene of the runaway bunny to draw a clear connection to this poem. So E.M. Ashford states something like, "Oh, a little allegory for the soul. No matter where it hides, God will find it." And it suggests that Vivian has a spiritual relationship with God. And though she is ignored it while she's in the physical realm, so while she's alive and while she's preoccupied with studying and teaching, she will strengthen or reconfirm her relationship with God when she dies. And the final scene, and particularly the stage directions in the final scene, indicate that Vivian does achieve salvation. And the comment Edson leaves us with is that we all have the capacity to change and to reassess our values, and it's never too late to do so. So at the end of the play, Vivian does find that spirituality that has been lacking in her life. Now, if we return to the poem, we can read the poem as Donne comforting Anne about their separation when he dies. So Donne is calm in this poem as he has faith, and he knows he'll achieve salvation and eternal life. So he's reassuring Anne that their Christian faith, their spirituality, strengthens their relationship. And though he may leave her and are sent to heaven, they will be reunited one day when she joins him. And certainly when they join God's eternal choir. And that's a nice little idea that's presented in Hymn to God, My God in My Sickness. So to conclude this little talk on this poem, I just wanted to look at the presence of circles in the play, because we see circles in the poem, and a lot of the conceit's built around circles. So there are a couple moments in the play where we can interpret that there's a connection to the circles in the poem, and to this idea of circles being symbolic of divinity and all things perfect. So one of those is the grand rounds. Okay, and when the doctors come in and they conduct the grand rounds, and at the end Vivian says, "Well, wasn't that grand?" That presents the irony that the grand rounds are far removed from perfection and divinity, and that they're somewhat a sin of society. So that's an interesting thing to look at. That the circles, it's broken in the play. Another circle that I've identified is the Vivian's medical bracelet, and that's an implicit link to the band of hair around the wrist in the poem The Relic. So it symbolises the misdevotion of the modern medical fraternity. So in the poem they're done saying that people will worship, they'll see the band of hair around the wrist, and they'll worship it without really understanding that it's something more simplistic than that, and so we can make that connection to the misdevotion of medical science in our quest for understanding life. And I might be stretching for this one, but the light on the stage, and I haven't got a play in front of me, but it most probably would project a round light onto the floor. And so we can see this as representing divinity and eternal salvation as Vivian ascends to heaven. Whether or not the light does that, makes the circle, that is certainly the suggestion that's presented in the poem. So you could make some sort of connection to that, regardless of whether you want to have that circular motif. So to conclude, perhaps you can look for other suggestions of circle in the play, and there will certainly be other scenes in the play that connect with this poem. So it's just a matter of looking at the poems that we've been studying and finding little connections between and drawing some observations from them.